Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to another Hosting.com Agency Success live stream. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the agency trainer here at Hosting.com, and I am really excited for what we have to show you today, which is all about the Rocket.net MCP. Now, even if you're not using Rocket.net, I think, especially if you've never seen an MCP work before, this is going to be a lot of fun. And so I did a quick pre-show poll in the chat about who in our live participants has actually used an MCP or connected an MCP from their AI tool to other tools they're using. And by far, folks are not using MCPs, at least that are here live with us today. So I am really excited about that because I think this is going to be eye-opening. I'm going to drop in for you the link to download today's handout. It is right there in the chat. And if you're watching this on the replay, you can always go to downloads.myagencysuccess.com. That is a Google Drive folder filled with all the handouts from all the live streams we've done here on Agency Success. So lots of great resources for you there. And that link will point you to this handout. We're talking about an intro to MCP with Rocket.net. So if you've never heard people talking to your website, you probably will start hearing that very soon because there's so many tools available for WordPress and various hosting platforms that allow you to connect your favorite AI tool to various platforms and services. So we have, in my agency, MCPs built for virtually every single service that we use, and we're starting to run our entire process inside of our favorite AI tool, which happens to be Claude Code. Now, we will be using Claude Code for the demo today, but this will work with really any file-aware AI tool that you want to use. So if you're using something like OpenAI's Codex, this will work just the same. So let's talk just a little bit at the beginning about what this kind of thing can do. And I'm just going to start out with this quick definition of what is an API and what is an MCP. Because if you've been in web development for a while, chances are you've heard of an API, right? And so a typical example would be, oh, we want to add a special Google map on our WordPress website. So we've got a plugin that lets us add Google Maps and add pins to the Google map. But for that to work, we have to connect out to the Google Maps API. And so you have to go and you set up a connection, and then the code in your plugin knows how to talk to Google Maps via their API. So the API has certain calls and handles that the code is just pre-wired to talk to, right? And so they get to talk back and forth. Now, an API has been around for a long time. They're still very, very powerful, but an MCP takes an API up to the next level. So what an MCP essentially is it's a translator that sits between your favorite AI tool and a service like Google Maps, or in this case, like Rocket.net, a web host. And what it does is, whereas an API says, okay, here's how your plugin can talk to a service, and it has to be wired up directly. An MCP says, okay, here's your AI tool, and your AI tool can connect now to this other tool that you're using. And instead of it having to address specifically the exact calls of an API, the MCP for this service just says, here's all the things you can do. And it sort of gives it a menu of things, and the AI tool can just start talking to it. So it's a much more flexible way for you to talk from your AI tool to the different services you're already using. So super cool. By the way, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. And this is a standard now that's used by most file-aware, code-oriented AI tools. All right. So what are the kinds of things you can do with an MCP? Usually, whatever service you're talking to, they are going to expose most of the tools that they offer If they're offering an MCP, it's like this menu. You walk into a restaurant, they hand you a menu, and here's all the things you can order. And that's what an MCP is going to do for your AI tool. It's going to give you a menu of all the things that this service that you're connecting to offers for the AI tool to actually do on your behalf. So today we're talking specifically about Rocket.net. Several weeks ago, Rocket.net announced that they have made an MCP available. Now, they've had an API for some time, but the MCP, again, just takes that up to the next level because it exposes a menu of things to your AI tool that it can do for you. Now, what I've done is I've put together a run book that's available for you to download right here from the document. Now, you won't be able to do this unless you're running Rocket.net. So I'm going to show you how it works on Rocket.net, but I've made it very easy for you, if you are on Rocket.net, to connect right away to your to the Rocket.net MCP. So let me open up. I just want to get this run book open here so you can see what's actually going on there. 1 second here. Too many windows open. All right. So this run book is simply a Markdown document. And a Markdown document, if you're not familiar with Markdown, it is the format that AI tools really like to use the most because it preserves hierarchy. Like this # is a H1. Two of those is an H2. So without having to have lots of markup, it can very quickly show organization and structure, bold, bullets, these sorts of things. So you can actually open this up and read straight down the list and see what it does. But what I'm going to do is actually run this. So you can download it here at this Google Drive link if you'd like. That's going to open it up in a browser tab. You can pull it down. And we're going to run this connector right here in our AI tool, which happens to be Claude Code. Now, all I've done at this point is connect a session in Claude Code to this folder on my desktop that has a couple of different runbooks in it. So I'm just going to say right here, we're going to tell it, run the MCP connection runbook. And we're going to let that go. Now, Claude Code is going to open up that MCP connector runbook. And it should open it up right here. Boom, found it, hopefully. Good. All right, so it's going to read through this. And basically what a runbook is, is a series of instructions. It's like you have a checklist for a process that you run in your agency. A runbook is that way. It's just a process that the AI tool is going to follow. And this one works kind of like a step-by-step wizard. So it's asking me, what is the email on your Rocket.net account? Well, you can find that up here at the top. And for me in this account, it's web@wpnathan.com. So I'm going to type that right here. And what it's going to do now, it's pre-programmed to generate this block right here, this block of copyable, it's a terminal command, and I can just copy this. And here's what it is going to do. Let me just open up a terminal so you can see this. I'm going to paste that in. And it is going to say, oh, what is your Rocket.net password? Well, I'm just going to copy that from my password manager. And paste it in right there. And it's going to say, boom, Rocket is connected. Restart your Claude Code session to load it. Now, this is one of the things about working with any MCP, not just Rocket.net's MCP, but any MCP at all. When you connect it in a session in Claude Code, you often have to restart Claude Code. So it has to load it in this new connection into the session. So I'm just going to quit and reopen Claude Code, and we will be connected. All right. So I'm just going to hit continue. And it will say, hey, we've got, this keeps opening tabs because of other things I have baked into my Claude system that I've disconnected right now in order to show you the live demo. So it's going to keep opening this tab. It's going to be annoying. But look, oh, hey, look, we're connected. Here are 3 sites. And look, there they are. We have purplebeagle.org and 2 subdomains, bark.purplebeagle.org, spot.purplebeagle.org. And they all show right here with what data center they're in. Everything is good. Boom, we are all set to go. So that's pretty simple. Now, what I've done here with this run book, and if you're a Rocket.net user, you can just pick this up and start to use it immediately. I think it's an easier flow to connect your website to Claude Code or Codex than what's provided in some of the docs. And particularly this method, as you just saw, like I just showed you the whole thing right there on the screen. It's more secure than perhaps taking a chance that Claude may say, "Oh, just paste the token here in the chat." Don't ever do that. Never paste passwords or authentication tokens or API keys or anything like that into the chat. So this is a method that I use whenever I connect an MCP to Claude Code. And if you were to drop this run book into your Claude Code, you can say, I've got a little section baked in here at the bottom of how we're doing this authentication in order to keep the secure credentials out of the chat with your AI tool. And so you can just drop this runbook in there and say, hey, help me build something like this for this service for my AI tool. And it will know, just because it's baked in right here, it will know kind of how to guide you along using this connector runbook as an exemplar. Does that make sense? Before I go any further, is everybody with me? See what we just did? We've gotten ourselves connected, and you can use this connector runbook just kind of as an example for any other MCP that you want to connect. So I've tried to make this as easy as possible. Now, one of the things that I put into this run book as a step is, oh, look, so Rocket has a really nice API reference for everything that it can do with its MCP. And it's at this web address right here. It's not going to open it up here, but that lets basically, it's an instruction manual for Claude Code on how do I ask for the right thing through the MCP. So we don't get a lot of, well, I tried this, but that didn't work, and all that sort of loop that you can get into with an AI tool. So I've baked that in here into that run book so that it's going to go look and get smart on all the things the MCP can do. And that's really, by the way, if you are starting to use MCPs from other services, that's a really good thing to bake into your regular install process for an MCP, is to go out and look and find the definitions or the instructions that service has for your AI tool and let it know where those are so it can look and get smart on how best to talk to that service without a lot of runaround. Okay, so we are connected. Claude Code now sees all of our sites here. And let me just show you something simple you can do. Let's just say, make a cloud backup of bark.purplebeagle.org. Oh, it heard Claude, and it should have said cloud. It still doesn't like that. We'll just say cloud. We'll type it. Okay, so with a command inside of our AI tool, this is going to kick off a cloud backup process for the Bark website. All right, so it's looking for the tool. All right, didn't find it exactly. So look, it went out to the instruction file just to make sure it understands how to ask to start a cloud backup. And sometimes the first time we run this, it gives us a little bit of challenge. Okay, here it goes. All right, so it's looking, it found the ID of the site, and it is running a backup. So if we refresh our page here, we should see a backup is creating. All right. So now that's a very simple thing. Okay. And sure, we could have gone into the Rocket.net UI and we could have clicked the backup. Like, it's not that hard. And, why would we want to do it through an AI tool? Well, there's a number of reasons. First of all, I mean, let's just face it. It's kind of cool to look in your AI tool and say, go make me a backup. And it just does. But where it gets super powerful is when you start to layer this into a process. So maybe you want to do some troubleshooting. And the first step in that process is go make me a backup of the site. Boom. And now we can start looking at our troubleshooting things, looking at error logs and so forth while that backup is already creating over in the background. And we never have to leave our favorite AI tool. And so we're going to do something like that. We can look quickly here at one of the sites in our list, our primary site, purplebeagle.org, because there is a problem. This site is running on a very outdated version of PHP. It is running on PHP 7.4, and we know that's not good. But if you lived through that era of trying to upgrade sites from PHP 7 into PHP 8, you probably remember that it broke a lot of things and it took a while to fix some of those things. And we had to wait for plugins to update and so forth. And I'm just using this as what I hope is a familiar event of when we go to update a PHP version, are we sure it's going to work with all the things that we have on the site? And so I've given you actually another run book here that's going to work us through that whole process. Now, here's that run book. It's available here at this Google Drive link. And again, we'll just tell Claude to open this run book and it'll run it. So we're telling it to follow our safe principle, which is basically this. AI proposes actions and you approve it. So don't do anything that's destructive unless the human in the middle says it's okay to do. This is written around that whole principle. So there's some staging here, and it's going to run through this like a wizard. So we're going to record the starting version of the site. We're going to create a staging site. And make sure it's a staging site, not a backup. We're going to look at what does the error log look like with the current version. Then we're going to flip the staging site over to the new version of 8.3. And then we're going to say, oh, does it still work? That's a good thing. And then we're going to say, all right, well, what does it look like after? So are there new errors that are hitting the log after we flip to the new version? And we're going to compare these side by side from the live site to the dev site and see what's going on there. Are they errors that are caused by the upgrade, or were they pre-existing errors of something that was already kind of weird and broken before we upgraded PHP? Then we're going to fix the upgraded caused error. And this whole time, we're going to be creating an artifact, which is just another file that sits off to the side of a change manifest. In other words, as we are fixing issues that we've found in the staging site, as we flip to the new PHP version, we're going to be like basically making a list of things that need to be fixed on the live site. So it's going to write that here, and then it's going to go through and apply those changes back to the live site. Okay. Now, if you stop and think about it, this is exactly what you would do manually if you were going to flip a site to a new version of PHP, right? So it's basically taking what you might even have as an existing checklist and just moving that into having AI accomplish it for you. Now, this is a great question, and I was expecting someone to ask this. So good job, Sherry. How did you create this? So let me just tell you, did I sit here and type this whole run book? Absolutely not. No way. So the idea is I have a conversation with Claude about what we want to do. And then we'll kind of get that process baked, kind of thought through and what the steps are going to be just in a chat conversation. And then I'll say, okay, go write the run book for it. And it writes this file for me. And then now, full disclosure, I ran it through a couple of times to make sure it worked. And we caught a couple of things and we iterated on this run book until it was how I wanted it. But isn't that's how we do processes anyway, right? Like you make a checklist and you run it a couple of times and you make it a little better. But in this case, I'm just talking to Claude and it's updating the run book as we go. Does that make sense? So lest you think that you have to write this super long document, you don't have to do that. Not at all. You're describing the process, or even better, maybe you have a checklist of a process. You can just drop that into Claude and have it turn it into a run book for you. And there's nothing magic about this. It's literally just text that the AI tool is going to follow. So pausing just for a second, does that make sense? Any questions about that before we move into actually doing the thing? So yeah, there's really no keyword, Sherry. Like I call it a run book. Some other people call it a run book. That's not really necessarily a technical term. You just want to put it into a run book or a process or something that your AI tool can follow in the future. That's the idea. All right. So let's start a PHP upgrade, shall we? All right. So let's point. Well, it already has access to the folder where this runbook lives. So all I have to do is say something like run the PHP upgrade runbook for purplebeagle.org, and let's upgrade it from PHP 7.4 to PHP 8.3. So watch it. It's now going to go out there. Look, it found the runbook right away, and it's starting to digest all the things that we just looked through. So here we go. We're going to follow the runbook. We're running on phase 1, so it's going out to WP CLI and seeing what all the things look like. So look at all of this that it is doing here. It got a bunch of information back. Okay, it is running. Yep, PHP 7.4.33. So we're now going to create a staging clone. So let's see, is it actually creating the staging site? Let's just go watch. So this does take, yep, look at that. It does take about a minute-ish, depending on the size of your site, for a staging site to be created. But look, we just ran the runbook and it started creating the staging site for us, right? That's pretty cool. All right, so it's running 15. It's going to take about a minute, but you can watch what it's doing. It's kind of neat. A lot of stuff here. So it's creating that staging site and it's just waiting until it's found. Let's see. It's thinking. 95. Oh, we're almost there. All right, we are done. So it ought to say it's finished here. Boom, there we go. It's done. So let me get the URL of the staging site and confirm that the staging site that we just created with our conversation now also is on the same PHP version, just to be sure. Okay, yep. So it is on the correct baseline version. So we're going to clear the error log just to make sure there's no residual stuff out there. And we're going to take a look at the site and see what errors are being generated currently. All right, small error log at the root. We're going to clear that. And take a look at what actually happens in the error log. All right. So we haven't done anything other than point our AI tool at this runbook that I created. And again, it's really, honestly, it's not hard to create a runbook. You can just describe the process that you want to do and let Claude write that for you. And every time you run it, you can make it a little bit better. Stacy is asking, is Rocket.net a cPanel WHM environment? No, Rocket.net is a managed WordPress platform. It's built on Cloudflare Enterprise and some server things happening in the back end. It's a unique hosting platform. But this is even if you're not on Rocket.net, this is a great example of what you can do with an MCP that connects to WordPress. All right, so it's done all the things. It zeroed out the error log. Now we are moving forward. All right, so we're generating some baseline traffic. So right now, it's looking at the site and it's trying to see if there's any errors that are going to show up in the log before we swap the PHP version. All right, so we're bumping into a couple of things, which honestly, I did not bump into when we tested this, of course. So it's going to work its way through and figure this out. Okay, so it's good. It's finding homepage 200 is what you want. That means it found it and it's loading it fine. Okay, so there's one little error here. And by the way, all these errors I've baked in. So we're expecting to find some errors here because I want to show you how to fix these things. All right, so moving right along here. Look at that. Real quick, it just flipped it right there for us while I was talking. It flipped it over to PHP 8.3 for us automatically. And now we're just making sure that everything loads. Awesome. Everything is working. A real upgrade caused a fatal error. I baked that in. Like this was supposed to happen. So we can actually test fixing it. Okay. So what happened here is something on this site, when we flipped it from 7.4 to 8.3, it broke the site. So if we go look at this staging site, it's going to be broken. We have a critical error. That happens sometimes when you upgrade things from an old version of PHP, right? How many of you have been there? Except now we're going to be able to do something about it. Oh, look. So it found with the error log, it found that it's this MU plugin, which we added ahead of time to demonstrate this breakage. PHP legacy loop.php, it's calling to an undefined function. So this was upgrade caused because it wasn't present when we were at 7.4 and it is present when we hit 8.3. There's also some other errors that are happening in this other file that it's not upgrade related, it's just a problem with the code. So interesting. Okay, so there's the offending code. Oh, and look, it's going through and applying the fix to the staging site to just fix that error for us. That's helpful. And again, this is Claude connecting to Rocket.net via the MCP. Now we hit a decision point. All right. So do we want to apply this to purplebeagle.org? So it's gone through its whole process while I was talking just a minute ago. And it's gotten to the point where, okay, we know what is going to fix this. It fixed it. It worked. And this whole time, it has been creating this new file in the folder we pointed it at called our upgrade manifest. So this is scrolling down. It's basically taking notes on everything that it did. Now, Claude just knew to do this based on the runbook that I gave it. So it recorded all the things, and all the fixes to the things are here in this manifest so that we've tested it on staging and it's working. And it says, okay, we're now ready to say we can apply this to the live site. Excellent. All right, so we'll apply it while the live site is still on 7.4 because that's going to work. And then we'll flip it to PHP 8.3. All right, so it asks us, how do we want to do this? Do we want to apply it or not yet? Let's go ahead and apply it. So do we want to fix the pre-existing other warning that was unrelated to PHP? Let's just leave it for now. We'll come back to that in a minute. So the question is, how long would it have taken us to do this manually? It's pretty amazing. This might have sent us on a little goose chase of trying to find out the offending bit of code, but Claude has sussed it out, figured out a fix. All right, we have just patched the code on the live site. And again, all of this is because of the MCP. Claude is connected, so it's able to talk directly to everything in the hosting environment. The code, the cache, the firewall, we're going to see some of that in a minute. It can talk to all of that directly. Pretty amazing. Okay, so the live site is healthy with the fixes in place. Awesome. So we're ready to move on to step 2 and flip it to PHP 8.3. And so it is now doing that. It just sent the little message to flip the PHP version to 8.3. Let's look back at our live site and get into its WP admin. We'll take a look at site health. And look at that. We are running on PHP 8.3. No errors, and it all works. How cool is that? Now, that was a lot, and it just ran that runbook. I wanted to do this just to show you the incredible amount of things that you can do through an MCP all at once. Do we want to delete the staging site? Yes. Let's get rid of that staging site. We don't need it anymore. Okay. Let me pause for a second. What do you think? Pretty amazing, right? Jamie's asking, is a run book similar to a skill? It's very, very similar. Run book is still more of a, like, you can read it and edit it directly in a markdown file. A skill is going to, you still maybe, the skill is registered where a run book is not, basically. So pretty cool. So imagine doing tech support for clients in your agency where you just read or you could even copy and paste the email that you get from a client describing a problem into your AI tool, and it just goes out, looks at the server, finds the problem, and tells you what needs to be fixed. And even with your permission, goes out there and fixes it itself. Isn't that incredible? The possibilities here are really, really remarkable. Let me pause here just for another second. Questions about this so far? Ben is asking, is security a concern? Security is always a concern. So, a couple of things. These are your credentials, okay? And so the way that I started this whole thing off with the MCP installation runbook right here, that is the best and most secure way for you to authenticate with in an MCP like this. It is very secure. Things stay on your local computer. You're authenticated locally. So the concern would be if you lose your computer or something like that. But I mean, we got a lot of problems if we lose our computer anyway, right? So you're authenticated on your computer. The other thing is the Rocket.net login is going to time out after 7 days. So every 7 days, you have to re-authenticate, which I think is good. So it's a max 7-day window, but they are credentials. Now, the biggest single concern with MCPs and credentials is that Claude and other tools sometimes say, well, just paste your API key here. No, no, no. Never, ever, ever put any API key or token or credential password, anything like that, into an AI chat. That is it. That's the single biggest issue that you'll run into if you start working with MCPs, which is why I gave you this run book that you can, if you want to connect another MCP, you can just say, use this run book as an example and help me connect to this other MCP out here. Sherry is asking how much memory locally needs to be available. I don't know. It depends. I've never bumped into a memory issue. Whenever you're running local AI like this, like Claude Code or Codex, it's going to create little miniature virtual machines, and that's going to be several gigabytes if you're running a bunch of stuff all at once. So you do need some free hard drive space. And, but as far as memory, I mean, there'll be some, but unless you just have a really, really old computer, probably you'll be all right. 200 gigabytes should be plenty. I think mine at most got to be about 70 gigabytes that it needed. Okay, great questions so far. I want to show y'all some more things, but if there's any questions you have before we move into some more application, I want to talk about that now, about how to connect the MCP or anything like that, just so everybody's with me. So, old computers. Sherry's saying she has a 2017 MacBook Pro. That's pretty old. And if there was ever a case to upgrade an older machine like that and if you're an Apple person, to get into an M3, M4 type chip, it's the new, it's all the demands of AI. And so I highly recommend. It's going to do so much for you if you start baking in AI, and especially a file-aware AI tool like this, to your whole process. Okay, well, let's keep moving here because there's some other things I want to show you. Here's a perfect example. Over here, one of the sites that we have here is called spot.purplebeagle.org. Let's just go there real quick. If we go to spot.purplebeagle.org, you will find there's a critical error on this website. So let's just say spot.purplebeagle.org has a critical error. Help me fix it. So we're going to let it go out there and connect. It's going to go take a look at our error log and see what's going on. So we're no longer using a playbook. We're just having a conversation. We've connected this session of Claude Code to our Rocket.net MCP. And now we're just going to do some things that I think you might find yourself doing normally in the course of dealing with client websites, such as fixing a critical error that just popped up. So let's take a look. All right, it's found this root. There is an error log. Oh, look, the fatal is consistent and unambiguous. That means it knows exactly what's going on. And it's in another MU plugin that we baked in there. This is all preset, so we could have some errors. So it's calling for some function that doesn't exist. So let's take a look at that and see if there is a function, where it's supposed to be. So it's now, right now, digesting that entire site to see if that function lives somewhere. And it found just that quickly, let me reduce this. It's a clean cut issue. The entire fatal error comes from one must use plugin right there. The only code in it is this because we just threw that in there to break the site. It's calling this function, which is defined nowhere on the site, which means it's going to break. The file own header says it's an intentional site down prop. Yeah, we did that. So the fix is remove that file. Okay, that's what it wants to do. So here's our options. Do we want to remove the file? Do we want to neutralize the file? Do we want to not do anything? Well, let's neutralize it. I don't want to delete the MU plugin altogether. So let's just neutralize it. And it is now going to take care of that for us. So it's thinking about the best way to do this. So it is now editing that file. So it changed the content of that file. It has neutralized that function call. And probably the site's going to load. Look at this. Boom. Done. Fixed. Is that cool or what? So it's able to look at the entire site and do a pretty good diagnosis in less than a minute. Does this function exist anywhere? And then recommend exactly what to do. Is that pretty cool or what? Site is back. No critical error. We're going to confirm the error has no logs. Boom. Done. That's pretty neat, right? Oh, let's see what else we could do. Take a look at the error log for the other sites and see if there are any problems. Oop, I didn't land. Take a look at the error log on the other sites and see if there are any problems. So let us see what else it turns up. So we're going to now look over at the other two sites, purplebeagle.org and bark.purplebeagle.org, and see if we have any other issues. Now, we're probably going to turn up some errors on purplebeagle.org, some historical ones from the PHP upgrade, perhaps, but also that one lingering error. Remember that? There was one error that we turned up on Purple Beagle that was pre-existing of the PHP switch. So let's take a look at that and see if we can see what's going on. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to drop over here into rocket.net, into the file manager, and we're going to look right here at this error log. And there's oh yeah, look at that. There's something going on here on this MU plugin. Interesting. So, all right, now notice here, this is a little bit of a lingering issue from when we did the upgrade. Remember earlier, we told it not to worry about this error that existed. We have already agreed to leave. Now we're ready to deal with it. So we need to tell it that. We do also have a big error log on bark.purplebeagle.org. So let's see what's going on there. High volume warnings piling up. We want to know what's flooding it. Let's get a download URL and fetch it. So we're going to allow it to do that, to download the error log. So Claude is going to fetch that error log and see what's going on in there. So there it is. Uh-oh, session dropped. That's interesting. I've been having some flaky connectivity here. Can y'all still hear me? Let me just make sure. I was having some internet issues earlier today. Hopefully it's not dying. Okay, good. So I'm not dead on Zoom. We'll see what's going on here. Okay, here we go. It recovered. Whatever that was, it fixed itself. All right. Oh, the 5 megabyte download broke the response. So what is it going to do? Claude is going to figure this out on its own. Let's see what else we can do here. So it's thinking about it. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to run a side chat. Nope, here it goes. All right, the MU plugins are clean, so this flood isn't the promo banner warning, which it found up there. All right, so it's going to go and grab just the last few kilobytes of the log. So it was too big. The error log was 5 megabytes. That's a big log. And it couldn't pull the whole thing down. So it's going to try to grab just the last little bit of it. And I bet this will work. So it's thinking real hard about that. So the last 4,000 lines of the error log. And it's digesting. Okay, we're in a loop here. I'm not gonna keep fussing with this. Let's just fix the issue with the PB banners plugin on the purplebeagle.org website. All right, so we'll do the live fix with that plugin. I don't want to keep fighting this 5 megabyte file issue. We could certainly find a way around that, but for our live demo here, it might take a bit. All right, so it's taking a look. It's seeing what's actually throwing that. We know that it's a faulty MU plugin that I added to the site to get it to produce this error. Okay, so it found the problem. Oh, it's reading the banner file unconditionally on every request. Let's keep reading here. All right, the clean fix is to guard the read so it only runs when the file actually exists. That is smart. So let's do the recommended step. And so it is going to update that file and fix it. Now, ideally, before we did this, we would have run a backup, and we could have told it in the chat, take a backup of this site, and it would make a backup before we did the read, or we could have done this on a staging site, either way. But it has fixed it. It is verifying the warning is gone. It is clearing the error log, and now loading the site to see if any more errors show up. And it's doing all this in the background. And all we're doing is having a conversation with it. Pretty amazing. All right, fixed and verified. The warnings are resolved. Good deal. All right, how about this? Create a table of all the plugins I have on all of these sites. List the plugin in the first column and what sites are running it in the second column. So this is something else that the Rocket.net MCP can do. It can look at all the sites in your hosting environment, whether you have 3 like this or 100, and load up all the plugins and tell you what's there. I did just notice something that we may. Okay, good. I had purposefully gotten a bunch of older versions of plugins here because we're going to run a plugin update right here from the chat. But it looks like some of the plugins on purplebeagle.org updated by themselves already. Okay, so here's our list. All of the plugins and which sites are running it. Isn't that kind of cool? So why don't we say this? There's a whole, let's see. Which of these plugins need updates right now? So it noticed, we didn't even ask it to do this, but there are some plugins that are common to all 3 sites. There's an inactive version of WordFence on the Bark site. Bunch of MU plugins. Okay, so here's all the plugins that need updates. Isn't that interesting? So let's say this. Which sites are running Cadence Blocks or Cadence Blocks Pro? So you might have a plugin that's been having issues updating from time to time, hypothetically, such as Cadence Blocks. Let's update all the plugins on these sites except for Cadence Blocks and Cadence Blocks Pro. So we'll just let it take care of that. It's going to update all the plugins on all three sites that need updating, except for problematic plugins like recently Cadence Blocks and Cadence Blocks Pro. So we're thinking, what's happening here? Let's see. Still going. Okay, it's going to confirm 13 updates across the three sites. Do we want to do it? Yep, let's confirm. And there it goes. See, this is the power of being able to just talk to your website. See how amazing that is? So, just for example, let's say you have a fleet of WooCommerce sites where, there are certain plugins that need to be updated, and you can say, "Hey, how many of these plugins, the WooCommerce dependent plugins, add-ons that you've added, how many of them need to be updated?" And there's this other WooCommerce, update coming, and you can look at that and make decisions in plain language which plugins you want to update. All right, let's see how we're doing here. You're still waiting here. Let's see. Oh, yep, we want to always allow there. So it is going to update our plugins. Carla asked a question a minute ago about, will the changes be overwritten if the site software updates? So the fixes that we just put in place were to MU plugins. So those were, code snippets that we added. I had to do it that way just to break the site and create errors. So in that case, no, those are our own code. It's like editing code in a functions.php. Stacy says, so I wouldn't need main WP if I got this up and running. So, I mean, you may like the view of how it shows all your sites, but if all of your sites were in rocket.net, for example, and you have an MCP connected, it does basically the same thing. Now, certain other site dashboards have lots of other features, but we're getting close to the point where your AI tool can replace a lot of this functionality. All right, so there it goes. It's updating. Let's see where we are here. Down to 2. And look, the only 2 were Cadence Blocks. Well, there's a Yoast SEO hanging out down there. So it's just going to double check. So pretty amazing stuff. Cadence Blocks Pro untouched. There we go. All right, let's do something else. How about this? Because Rocket.net is built on Cloudflare Enterprise architecture, this is the level of Cloudflare that cost about $100 a month typically. There's a lot of things in here. So let's just take a look at purplebeagle.org. And so we have in the background the, reports, WAF. This is the Web Application Firewall. This is the Cloudflare Enterprise WAF rules. So, you've probably seen in Facebook groups, and I've talked in depth about, creating your own Cloudflare WAF rules and so forth. All that's baked into Rocket.net already. It's just part of the Cloudflare Enterprise system. And it just runs. You don't have to do anything with it. But what you can, if you're curious, you can say something like this. Oh, it gave us a whole report. Look at that. Give me an overview of firewall events in the last week for purplebeagle.org. So it's going to go with the MCP. Because the MCP in Rocket.net is connected to the whole hosting infrastructure, it's going to go out and it can talk to that enterprise firewall and give you some data here, even beyond what's available here. Matter of fact, it's significantly better, in my opinion, than the basic reporting that's available here on the dashboard. So it's going out, it's talking to the Rocket.net firewall now, and it's pulling in data about what has happened on purplebeagle.org in the last week. Now, here's the thing. Purplebeagle.org is a relatively new domain. I registered it for a live stream, I think 6 weeks ago. It's never really been out there. It's always been demo sites, and you're going to be shocked at what I've seen already as the attacks. Look at this, 5,400 firewall events. How did they even find this site? I don't know. But a bunch of garbage was found. Look at that. Okay, so we have this sort of thing. Oh, look. Now, here's where Claude gets super cool because it looks at all of that stuff and it just, without even me saying anything other than an overview of events, there's one IP that dominates. 48% of everything came from that IP address. I have no idea what that IP address is. Followed by this one. Everything after that. So basically, 2 IP addresses have been hammering away at purplebeagle.org. Isn't that crazy? Let's see. The top network, this AS number served almost 4,000 events. The rest is spread out. It's the Netherlands. The Netherlands are attacking me for some reason. I don't know why. It was whatever this TLM audit scanner, I don't know what that is, was hammering. Let's see. What were they trying to get? It's a bunch of attack vectors here, trying to steal environment passwords. Yeah. Let's see. So mostly was on the 4th of July. Yes. Isn't that interesting? Okay. So there we go. We could tell it from here, make me a graphic of this, and so forth. We could dig into it. Like we could even say, what is the source of this IP address 45.148.10.67 that has the most events? And it'll go out there and, just you're asking your AI tool, do a little deeper dive into this and see what's going on. So while it's checking that, let's allow it. While it's checking that out, Stacy has a question. Can you set up Cloudflare rules with this? So no, with Rocket.net, you don't need to set up Cloudflare rules. And if you did, it doesn't impact this hosting environment. So they, even if you have WAF rules on the domain, when it's pointed to Rocket.net, it uses their Cloudflare enterprise rule set, which is quite frankly always going to be better. All right, so it came from this Tech Off Serve Limited and has a reputation as an abuse-prone hosting network. Knuckleheads. So there we go. Oh, look. Can we block? I didn't think we could do this. Okay, block that IP address. I didn't think we could do that with the MCP. I guess we're about to find out. I think it's going to spin for a minute and say it can't do it, but we'll see. That would be super cool if it does have an endpoint for that. I didn't try this in setup. Let's see if it can locate it. It might have. Ah, yes, that's the problem. We're just going to stop because I don't think that's actually going to work. But it's blocked anyway. It was not allowed through to begin with, just based on the Cloudflare enterprise rules. So blocking the IP is really not even important. They're probably going to change that again anyway. Let me do one more thing before we get to the top of the hour here, and that is, you may remember that as we did a little scan for all the plugins, that on one of our sites, it detected that we had WordFence installed. That was over here on our Bark website, and that, I believe, is... Let's get into the WP admin there. I think we have WordFence over there inactive. Yeah, okay. So it's there. We didn't like it. We deactivated it. We never uninstalled it. But if you know anything about WordFence, it leaves a whole bunch of database tables in your database, even when you delete it. So let's do this. Let's say the Bark site has WordFence security inactive. We don't want to use it anymore. Let's go ahead and remove all the database tables from the database that are related to WordFence. We need to clean it up completely. Whoop, why did it say Baron? The Bark site. There we go. So let's see how it's going to handle this. Because what I know is WordFence also adds some things in the WP options table. Let's see if it's good enough to know that by itself. So now, if this was an actual site, we would have done a backup first. And in the chat, we could have said, make a backup of this site. Boom, it'll go make a backup. Takes about a minute. Then we could come back and do our database cleanup. But again, because this MCP has access to the SQL databases in the account, it can talk directly to those databases. Okay, we're going to take a look at all the things. Note, this is just a demo, so it's okay to go forward with destructive changes. So we'll let that pick up after it thinks about it. So, okay, DB tables works. We got the table prefix. Now we're going to look and see if we find any tables prefix WF. So it's looking at it. It just issued this command here. I think that's the WP CLI command. And it's looking for anything with WF. Boom, it came back with a bunch of things. Let's give it a check for any leftover word fence rows in the options table. Look at that. It figured it out by itself. So I can give you a complete picture of full cleanup. All right, so it's checking the options table now, coming up with some searches. Boom, good thing we checked. There are no word fence database tables to remove. Okay, here's our full table at 33. Oh, you know what? I might have restored. Let's do this. Hang on a minute. I'm going to activate word fence and then deactivate word fence because I may have cleaned up those database tables and forgot to put them back after I was testing this demo. That would have just put them back. Scan for database tables again. It'll find it this time. Then it'll go out there and delete them. So think about all the things you could do with this in the course of working with a client. If your sites are in Rocket.net, you get a trouble ticket that comes in, you literally copy and paste that trouble ticket over to your AI tool chat and let it work out the issue because it's connected to your site already. It can go look at all the things, make some suggestions on what you might want to do. The possibilities here are significant. Okay, well, I guess it didn't exist. I cleaned it up and just activating the plugin didn't fix it. But you see what would have happened. If WordFence was actually active and I hadn't deleted the tables already, you would have seen all these tables. We could go out and remove them and so forth. So anything there in the hosting environment, you'll be able to access through this MCP. So absolutely, absolutely amazing and can save you a ton of time, especially when you layer things on top of each other like we showed in that run book. And that run book was written for one site. There is a section in it, if you actually scan down there, of what if you want to do this for a fleet of sites? Let's say you have 10 sites in your hosting platform that need to be upgraded. It can do that. It can run each step on all 10 sites at once and show you what needs to be changed on each, test it, fix code, go back, we're done, move everything to live. It can do multiple things at the same time, and that's where this gets amazingly powerful. All right, well, that, folks, is how to talk to your website using Claude and the Rocket.net MCP. We are right at the top of the hour. What do you think? Questions? Comments? How many of you are ready to pick this up and give it a try in your environment? Now, Rocket.net makes this super easy. But if you are not on Rocket.net, there may be ways that you can get access to an MCP for your hosting platform. But if you are interested in moving over to Rocket.net, I would invite you to contact Mike Demo. Mike is the partnerships lead for North America, and he'll look at your agency situation and help you make a wise decision about which flavor of hosting.com hosting is right for you, whether it's managed WordPress hosting like Rocket.net, or whether you want one of our virtual private servers or virtual dedicated servers. Mike will talk to you and help you find the right solution for you. And Mike is very, very smart about these things and has an agency background. He understands what we go through, and he knows what questions to ask. All right. Well, folks, that is going to wrap it up unless there are any other questions. I hope your eyes are open a little bit because the kinds of things you can do when you connect WordPress and your hosting environment to your AI tool, it's just next level mind blowing. And in my agency, we continue to layer tools like this on top of each other, and we're able to do more and more things that we didn't think were possible before. It's absolutely amazing. All right, folks. Well, thanks for hanging out with me for the last hour. We're back for office hours on Thursdays as usual. So I would challenge you to put this into practice. Try to connect your MCP and come on Thursday with questions about that, and I'll be happy to walk through them with you. Have a great rest of the day. Again, I'll see you back here Thursday for office hours here on hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.